Like, here's one for you. You want one? I'll give you one little
Let's
one.
get it.
I'll give you a little one.
What is it?
Just a little one. The worst thing that ever happened to this country, literally, the worst thing that ever happened. And this is not coming from a political standpoint at all, 100%, was women getting the vote in our country. And I know that's a touchy subject, but I have something to back this up with, if you care to discuss it.
Absolutely. I mean, I've heard this argument a few times, and I've heard it backed up a few different ways. So I'm curious to see where you're going to go.
So, in an idealistic world that we live in, obviously not everyone is going to handle themselves responsibly. It's just people do dumb shit. So a lot of times in like the feminist kind of like I feel like in that movement a little bit, they just kind of slam guys generally for being guys, and you can't really do that. And I will honestly say this, that there has been a lot of men throughout history that are horrible heads of their households. They represent all the toxic masculinity that is just horrific and destroys so much, And that embodiment of a man, I could understand why a woman would hate that, because men can be fucking pigs. They honestly can be pigs. But if we're also, there was a time period before the suffragette movement and everything, and I understand why it happened. I get it. I do understand it. Because men were not properly representing the voice of the family anymore, and it was really big corporations and stuff like this were coming in, and there wasn't really a voice in the family anymore. And so women had to stand up for that, and getting the vote was the way that they knew how to do it. And I understand that. But what it did is kind of open the door for industrialization to kind of now include women in the workforce. And in doing that, more and more women were hustled into the workforce. Now they got to vote. Their families are becoming split now. Now it used to be an age where whole families would like think the same mind. You shared the same faith, you shared the same qualities, you wanted the same things out of life. And now that's like splintered because the family unit is just dissolved. There's no one at home. Women are working, busy. There's actually probably a lot. I think, isn't it like more women in the workforce now in the fields than some dudes? Like there's women are getting in higher positions, and a lot of these like bigger corporate positions are being held by women now. And that's now forcing a man to be in the role of the guy that's home. That's creating more and more, that's becoming more and more where the guy's home, whether he's working from home or he's whatever he's doing, and he's raising the kids now. And there's this like whole change of like roles. And I feel that the family unit suffered in the whole because of that one move. And children have suffered. And a lot of the problems that we have with children nowadays even is this: there's literally no guidance at home. Mom is not there to guide the family. And what is it? I think it's like the Hebraic language. The name for mother is Ima, and the name for father is Abba. And Ima means foundation. Mother was the whole foundation in which the house sat on, you know what I mean? When he's saying, or whatever, to get a little religious, when God was saying, build the house on the rock. What rock do you think he was talking about? The rock of motherhood. That relationship that we would have with our mom should be the greatest thing ever, and I just see that dynamic changing, and I don't think we're headed to a good place because of it. So that's my rant.
Well, that change came before, like, you?
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, that was a change that happened before you were around to notice it, right? So
quite a bit before, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe like 100 years.
So, is that you really think that's from women having the right to vote?
It's I see it as a key move in changing the family dynamic. Yeah, like where mom has now got the family's splintered now. Politics are different in a family. So you could have a Republican mom and a Democrat wife or dad, and their politics are split. They're even the children are growing up and they're not embracing the ideals and things of their parents, and they're going off and doing these things because there's no continuity. You know what I mean? It's like there's no adhesiveness.
I think that it was obvious. I think definitely flipped, right? Definitely flipped. You're talking about mothers being more likely to be on the left side, on the liberal side, on the progressive side of things, and the men to be more conservative. And I think that the drive for allowing women to vote came from certain parties realizing that they would get votes if that population had the right to vote.
There was
and so they're going to push
manipulation
to say, hey, don't you feel like an inferior citizen because you can't vote? You should be able to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get you that right to vote because we know you're going to vote for us, right? That kind of thing. That was one strong thing that I heard about, the conspiracy behind it. And then the other part of it is that the reason that they shouldn't have the right to vote is because that vote is voting for people who are going to put us in war or not put us in war, and women do not get drafted and aren't forced to serve in war, and therefore they shouldn't be voting based on that, right? And there's all kinds of arguments for and against that. It doesn't matter if they are going to war or they're not. Somebody they love probably is going to too, so they're just as vested, whatever. But I think that's really where that comes from. But the big thing is getting women out in the workforce. Right?
Yeah.
That was an incredibly damaging thing for the country because one, you can say what you want about it being to double the income for the government on tax revenue. Now you have two household incomes, and both of those are getting taxed per household.
Yep.
Right. So you can that's a whole thing that you can argue on your own. But what the big takeaway here is that now there's nobody at home to raise the kids. So who's raising the kids? Government.
Television, media.
If you send your kid off to Caesar, don't be surprised when they come back Roman.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same thing. That's cool. I didn't make that up.
That's who's that by?
I don't fucking know. I don't remember exactly who that's from.
That's yeah. I agree. Like I said, insane. I mean, there's probably a degree of shock value is why I like to say, because when you say that, you're going to get attention pretty quick, saying,
yeah.
Because the argument has been there for a long time about women in the workforce, and we could see that, but that's why I kind of throw it out like that and it's a stepping stone, because I think generally at the heart of it is what you're saying, that, getting that two-person income in the household, and then just raising more consumers just birthing, spitting consumers out. Now mom and dad are trying to compete with the consumer machine, and they're just spitting out kids to just be a part of that machine, and I get that. I do. I understand how that happens. And that's one of the great deceptions, I think. It's one of the greatest deceptions, again, where you have, it seems like it's guys just being something really good,
mm-hmm.
and but it's really, disguising something that's, very diabolical, and that sucks, because really, honestly, the way I feel, I think men and women should stand side by side with one another in the family. I have a lot of traditional old family values like that, where, mom is the heart of the house, dude. She's literally the heart of the house. And you start making talk like that, and I think maybe that bothers me a little bit about feminists, because you start talking like that and people are like, oh, you can't say that. Women.
Say women belong in the
women
kitchen.
belong in the kitchen, in the house. Yeah, in a way they do, because they have the greatest responsibility in the known universe that we know it, raising our children. If we what is that? That's another. I don't remember who said this. If you don't raise your children, somebody else is going to. If you relinquish the control over your kids, whether it's to the state, it's to anybody, the church, whatever it is, you're gonna lose your children.
Yeah.
You're not gonna have their hearts. You're gonna, and your children are gonna be disconnected. They're gonna be, and we see this happening in the world that we live in. Video games, this stuff, it's all just manipulating people into believing an ideal of something that's just.
I'd have to say video games play a small role.
Oh, dude,
very small.
bloody.
Yeah, but that's not. I mean, the amount of time spent on playing video games, I don't think is appreciable enough. Right? It's about where you're going and spending the majority of your day. Going to a public school, going to a private school, going to a Catholic school, like where you're going to school, where you're learning, where you're socializing. That's what's important, and that's going to be the real formative experiences in life.
Yes, it's true, but you got to admit, did you watch Fallout?
Yeah.
So we all loved it when that robot dude crushed that dude's skull in his bare hands, and it went, it just popped like a freaking cantaloupe. We loved it. Everybody ate it right up, dude. And that's the kind of violence and just other stuff like that I feel like wouldn't necessarily be there for kids otherwise if there was someone standing at the gate, for kids. And I don't feel like there's anyone standing at the gate for them. Saying, hey, at this ride, you're not big enough to be on this ride. Maybe it's better that you sit this one out, little Jimmy. Not to offend all the little Jimmies out there, but. And I think those more important lessons get lost in all this dialogue. And it's so easy to just assume, you guys are all these awful, sexist, horrible guys, and though.
So, until next time, everybody's welcome at our table. Please subscribe, comment, share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. Please let us know what you think.
So
we do.
We'll see you next time.
And to Gina, 88, this one's to you. We love you.